شكرا للسيد مهوني على هذه الكلمة. من الفنون والثقافة ننتقل لموضوع آخر وهو التواصل الاجتماعي ووسائل التواصل الاجتماعي. بالتأكيد كلنا نتفق أن وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي أصبح لها تأثير كبير جدا على صناعة القرار السياسي والاقتصادي وأيضا الاجتماعي وكمان الإدراك العالمي. عن الموضوع ده هيكلمنا المتحدث التالي وهو كاتب كندي متحدث ومحلل للشؤون الدولية على قنوات CNN والبي بي سي. كتب لعدة مطبوعات صحفية عالمية زي الفوربس والLA تايمز والAsia تايمز. استضاف العديد من زعماء العالم وكبار رجال الأعمال في مقابلات تلفزيونية. تقلد مناصب متميزة في العديد من المنظمات الدولية وشغل منصب المتحدث الرسمي لمنظمة اليونيسف ومنظمة الأمن والتعاون في أوروبا، وحاليا يعمل على تأليف أول كتاب غير روائي عن الهواتف الذكية وإدمان وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي. فلنرحب معا بالمتحدث التالي السيد مايكل بوسيركيو. Mr. Michael, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. شكرا كثير. مساء الخير. So just to be clear, I'm not here representing Facebook, but you'll see Facebook a lot in my presentation because they figure so largely in technology and social media right now. So today, and I'll have to excuse myself as well, I've just flown 25 hours from Vancouver Island, so I may not be as articulate. I usually speak without notes. But I find the first thing that goes when you're tired is your memory and then spontaneity. But I hope you feel that you're slightly privileged today because I'm writing a book called Digital Crack. Hopefully it'll be a bestseller and hopefully it will appear beginning of next year. But the purpose of the book is to tell everyone the bold truth about technology and social media addiction. And I'm going to get into a few points with the book research. Now, usually I like to begin my talks on a upbeat or happy point, but I had to put this in late last night because I clicked on CNN and watched the news about the horrific bombing in Pittsburgh of the horrific gun attack in Pittsburgh of the synagogue. And it really, really shook a lot of people up, obviously. And this came the same week that pipe bombs were sent to various prominent US politicians, and including to an outfit that I write for frequently, CNN. The reason I mention this is because if you remember back, the internet was created as a unifying tool, as a very equalizing tool to bring the world closer together. Sadly, it seems the way these two events are related is that in both incidents, the perpetrators did post on Facebook and other social media platforms quite hateful messages. And I'm not going to get into the divisiveness, polarization that's happening not only in the United States, but in many places around the world. But sadly, in many cases, social media is being used as a tool to manipulate people and to spread hatred rather than the original purpose that it was made for. Now, this may be a sight that many of you have seen around the world of friends coming together, and you can see what they're doing. They're on their smartphones. This was taken at a cafe in Lviv in Western Ukraine. I was there not long ago. And I just had to capture this as a kind of reminder of often what happens. So as you can see, as this type of photo indicates, smartphone addiction, it's a digital attention crisis, as I'll explain in the book, that is accelerating at warp speed. Now, online users, it's really important to understand this, are becoming younger, with many surveys confirming what we see every day with our own eyes. Now today, more than 80% of US children have a digital footprint established before age 2, long before they even utter their first word or take their first step. So it could be we're getting into a situation where a young child learns how to swipe before he even learns the word mama. And by age 4, 3/4 of American children have their own device. And you know, it's really important to realize that even at that special tender age, their minds, their brains are not wired up for these very powerful machines. In the course of writing my book recently, I repeated this in a CNN column I wrote a few weeks ago, is that Steve Jobs said to his designers, giving an iPhone or a tech device like an iPad to a child is like giving them a bicycle without teaching them how to ride it. And some people have even said that giving a device to a young child is like giving them a Ferrari. It moves at fast speed, it's powerful, and yet it could have disastrous consequences. Now, in my book, I'm going to be talking about something called the digital divide. And obviously, in a place like Egypt, there are a lot of people that are connected, but yet in the rest of the world, there's something like 3 billion people still who are not connected to the internet. However, 1 in 3 internet users worldwide is a child, and young people are now the most connected of any age group. And in the United States, I'm focusing a little bit too much on the United States, but 93% of 13 to 7-year-olds go online daily, never turning off their device. A lot of children now even take their device to bed with them and spend hours and hours on YouTube and other platforms. And about 75% have iPhones. And well, this will come as good news to Apple, an organization that in the book I take to task for not doing ethical design and other ethical steps, is that almost 90% of teens said they expect their next phone to be an iPhone. Now, once they get hooked, they find it almost impossible to stop. Listen, please, carefully to these figures. The average American child stays online every day for about 5 hours, not including chatting and texting. And when they're on their summer break, some of them spend up to 7 to 10 hours a day online. Guess what the healthy maximum is? And that includes us, adults, 1 to 2 hours a day. So, in other words, children, often unsupervised, are far, far exceeding the healthy maximum for staying on their tech devices. So the average teen, what that means is the average teen is now spending more time online than they are sleeping. And then I think someone mentioned Instagram here earlier. I decided in the course of writing the book also it wouldn't be complete if I didn't include a chapter on selfies. It's become a big, big part of our culture. And now we see daily uploaded cute cat photographs, meatball dinners, goats, sexy firemen. And last year, we took over 380 billion photos. Or in the space of a few months, there were something like 500,000 different incarnations of the Harlem Shake posted on Instagram. So it's little wonder that Snapchat is one of the most valued companies and one of the most popular for children. In fact, children are so addicted to Snapchat that when they go on vacation, they often give their account to somebody else, because when you're a child, one of the things you want to do on Snapchat is keep the connection line going, the virtual connection line. And if you leave on vacation and you don't do that, days or weeks or months of hard work could go up into the air. But anyway, it's so addictive that it's become the most downloaded app and has about 166 million daily users. So the question I'll be dealing with in the book is, are we getting smarter or are we getting dumber by this kind of selfie culture? Or is there something good or valuable behind our digital curations? Now, devices that have gaming apps have, according to experts, the same addictive powers as crack cocaine. And as I've already seen with my own eyes, I visited a tech addiction center outside of Seattle a few months ago. It has devastating consequences for the young mind, especially for teenagers. Kids who get addicted to gaming, they lose sleep, they lose their jobs, they don't go to school. And sadly, the 5 or 6 guys that I talked to at this addiction center, all of them were given an ultimatum by their parents. Either go get treated for your addiction or leave the house. And the treatment is not cheap. They pay about $20,000 US for 4 to 6 weeks in this center. And the other thing you have to understand is that a lot of the gaming developers are now moving their apps to be used on mobile phones. Why? Because fewer and fewer of us are sitting at a table in front of a computer and we're playing games on our apps. And you know, you learn a lot of interesting things when you're writing a book like this, but what a lot of kids do is they get up in the middle of the night to play games because they're part of teams that are spread around the world. And if they don't participate, they may have to leave this team. So the pull is very, very big. So the dangers of overuse of technology by children has been linked to a number of states: obesity, depression, sleeplessness, attention deficit disorder, and even suicide. And you know, I've had many parents tell me, I am no match for my kid using the device. In fact, I was in London a few months ago, and a mother came up to me and said, my young child, 3 years old, 4 years old, is using an iPad, and I have no way to take it away from him. And you know, I was standing in line in Guangzhou, China, actually a week ago, waiting to go through immigration, and there was a young family in front of me, and the boy in front of me was maybe 3, 4 years old. And the whole time they were waiting in line, 45 minutes, the child was holding a smartphone, a latest model iPhone. Whenever the mother tried to take the phone away from him, he would scream and scream and scream. So I also have a friend in Italy. She has 2 kids. They're 7, 8, or 9 years old. And she told me that she will give the iPad to her children for 3 or 4 minutes. It takes them many, many days to stop begging for the iPad. In other words, several days of withdrawal follow that placement of the iPad in their hands. Now, I have to include myself in this narrative. Us adults are not much better. In fact, here's a little tip for you, because you don't have to wait for the book to come out to benefit from what I'm learning. There's a free app on the Apple Store and other stores called Moment, like Moment in Time. Download it, it's free, and you can track your usage every day. But the average American checks their phone 150 times a day. And on an average day, we collectively watch about 500 years worth of YouTube videos. Now, to be fair, I just checked Moment a few moments ago to see how much I was using my phone the day before yesterday, the day before I started traveling here. And my total was 5 hours and 40 minutes, and I picked up my devices 67 times. So whenever I use my device too much, according to Moment, it flags me in red and it sends me a message. And by the way, if you pay for Moment, you can also track the usage of your children on all of their devices. It might be useful for you. So that is why in the book, at the very top, I am labeling smartphone and social media addiction one of the biggest unaddressed public health crises of our time. And I think it's getting worse by the day. And one former Google designer that I talked to claims that social media platforms, whether it be Facebook, Snapchat, YouTube, what they're trying to do is hijack our minds through ever more sophisticated manipulation techniques. And they're only going to get even more sophisticated. They're only going to get even more manipulative. It's a little known secret in the Silicon Valley, where I've been spending some time, that Instagram has a very, very intelligent user interface. when you post a photo on Instagram, you know, we're naturally curious as human beings, and we like to see those likes come up as soon as possible, especially if you posted a really good photo, like I did yesterday of Cairo. What Instagram does, it delays displaying those likes on your smartphone. Why? Because it wants you to come back. And I don't know if any of you are on LinkedIn, but I use LinkedIn quite a bit. It's a very good networking app. But what LinkedIn does, the less you use it, the more it harasses you with alerts. And I've been testing it and documenting it. And they do this on purpose, of course, to get you coming back and back all the time. So again, there's a reason why a lot of those alerts are in red. And there's also a reason why, wow, 2 minutes, Facebook, for example, has the infinite scroll because we're naturally curious as people. Now, this time has gone by really, really quickly. I'm going to have to skip some stuff, but 1 second. I really wanted to bring you a little bit about Ukraine because I spend a lot of time there. Now, Facebook was the prime social platform used during the Maidan protest of 2013, 2014. Tens of thousands of Ukrainians turned out to protest corruption, the corrupt acts of then President Yanukovych. But the way they used Facebook was very, very interesting. Is what they did is they made micro groups within the Facebook platform. So you had a Facebook chat for drivers, for food, for medical relief, for even telling informing people where they're being detained. So it was a very kind of advanced use of Facebook to get people mobilized. And eventually, of course, they threw out that government in 2014. I'm going to have to skip a lot because of the time constraints, but I thought what is maybe many really useful to a lot of you, because probably a lot of you are parents, is that, look, there's no clear scientific guidance on when you should hand a powerful device like a smartphone to a child. But through my research for the book, through my talking to experts and many other people, is what they recommend is try to delay that to the 8th grade. The other issue is take an interest in how phones, how iPads are being used in your child's school. Last September, President Macron banned phones entirely from schools in France. I think that's the wrong way to go, because as much as I told you about the ill effects of technology, technology can be used very, very smartly in the classroom. However, make sure that whatever is practiced in the school, for example, if they limit the use of smartphones, that you also transfer that routine to your home by, for example, little things like banning phones at the dinner table, by limiting the use of phones near bedtime. I'm going to just take a couple more minutes, and I wanted to give you another anecdote. So one American father, I think it was in Silicon Valley, he had 3 or 4 boys, and he banned the use of smartphones at night, and what he did is he told the kids to put the smartphones in a docking station in the kitchen from bedtime to waking up time. But then what he realized very quickly, and again, this is underlying the addictive powers of smartphones, is that the children would get up in the middle of the night, they'd go down to the kitchen, power up their smartphones, and start watching YouTube and other things. So that's a really kind of graphic example. And then lastly, I think it's responsibility of all of us, and I know there are government officials here, to put a lot of pressure on the manufacturers, Apple and Samsung. Try, for example, using the parental controls on your iPhones, and you will find out that it's very difficult to use those controls. So Apple is slowly revising their hardware, their software, to make it easier for you, but there's a long, long way to go to make it easier for us to monitor our kids' use on the smartphones. And then finally, of course, there's the advent of artificial intelligence. I'm ending with this point, I promise. So right now, I'll give you a quick example. I had a chat with my colleague Farzana a few hours ago about a book that she was reading. And chances are that tomorrow, in my Twitter feed or my Facebook feed, there will be an ad about this book on my feed. And I've asked experts about this. It's not the actual microphone of the smartphone that is listening to us. It's the artificial intelligence predicting what she is going to talk to me about and what I'm going to do. So we're in for some very interesting times in terms of technology. And again, please try and use it wisely, and especially with children. Thank you very much.